I'm Alyson Irwin, known to many as Aly. Today, I am going to be on the Online Prosperity Show with Prosper, which is pretty exciting. I'm a senior mortgage broker based in WA. And today, I hope you get some insight into what you might be able to achieve by having the right person in your corner on your journey to home ownership. Also be inspired by people's journeys, especially mine, of starting your own business and getting into a line of work of something that makes you happy every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we've got a guest whose journey is as inspiring as it is transformative. Now, Alyson, how are you doing today?
Very well, and yourself?
Absolutely. I'm hoping that today we're going to help people find a solution to what's holding them back from living the best version of themselves. Is that an easy thing to do, Alyson?
I think if you put the right steps in motion, it can be, and your focus is right.
Absolutely.
Because it's only you that's going to hold you back.
Absolutely. I'm excited already because if people can take control of their relationship with money or whatever limiting beliefs that they might have, there's a deeper connection that you find within yourself and everything else that money can get you, which I think is a lot of choices, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
The biggest obstacle people have is themselves.
Oh, tell me about that. Well, let's not be the obstacle for those people to hear your awesomeness. Now, if you're watching this right now, thank you so much for tuning in to the Online Prosperity Show. I want you to, how do we put this? I want you to imagine having to step away from a successful career in banking and finance to be the one that embraces the full-time role of motherhood, especially when you have to support a husband who's flying in and flying out all the time. That's a full-time job in and of itself because you become all things to your family. You become the dad, the mom, the driver, the cleaner, the cook, everything else that comes along with it. And now put in having to figure out finances in the process. Now, I want you to picture reigniting that sort of professional spark you would have had in that banking and financing, not just to reclaim your personal identity because, as a mom, you now having to deal with people that are ungrateful. I know I've got kids, but to now empower countless others on their own financial journeys. That's our guest today, Alyson Irwin, and she did precisely that. So she's a distinguished mortgage broker, money coach, business woman, mentor, and the #1 Amazon best-selling author of Legacy Business Builders, Co-Creating a Life on Purpose. So we're going to be talking about that. The woman in front of you today is a remarkable woman. Okay, so her story is a testament to resilience, self-belief, and also pursuit of purpose. As we're going to dive into her experiences, methods, and invaluable lessons that she's gathered, I think you will find yourself not just listening, but resonating with her journey, and perhaps even seeing reflections of your own aspirations and challenges coming full circle. So I encourage you to sit back, relax, and really, really take note, because I think transformation is about to begin. Now, Alyson, I could go on and on talking about things I'm not even qualified about. You had that transition from banking to full-time motherhood. How was that like for you?
Well, babies were not part of our future or plan due to various health issues and endometriosis, and that's a whole different podcast. So when it actually happened that we first fell pregnant, it was a bit of a shock, to be honest. And then we thought, how are we going to navigate this? So then I took on the role of full-time mom while my husband worked away. At that time, he was 2 weeks away, 1 week home. So it's like, what do I do with you? You're home for a week again because you've been away for 2, where I've had to be, like you said, mom, dad, cook, clean, And then at home, when you're home, it's like, I want to be wife again and support you because you're exhausted coming home from working 2 weeks away and you've missed out on family moments and things like that. So that always stuck in the back of my head. Then baby number two came, and it was a thought process of what can I do to help support us at home? What can I do that potentially will work around kids' school hours? What can I do that can just alleviate the pressure, I suppose, of my husband to keep the roof over our head and keep doing what we were doing, keep our home intact? Because when you drop from two salaries to one, it's a huge impact, let alone the cost of raising children these days. So after baby number three and a couple of direct selling bits and pieces in between, I looked at mortgage broking as something that I could do working around the kids, work my own hours because most of us are self-employed, and just take the chance. And that's literally how it started. Plus, it kind of gave me a purpose of having an identity for me outside the mum, the dad, the hat, the security guard at night with any noise that happens with small kids, like all those little things. So that's kind of the instigator that got me up and running and looking at that for the flexibility.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us on that journey. But during your banking days, what was life like for you? And just so that we have, a bit of a picture of the before kids, Alyson.
Before kids, it was anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week because it was corporate banking and financial markets. It meant early starts, late days, come home exhausted, eat dinner, fall into bed, and it was like Groundhog Day. And then the weekends were your time to actually do anything with people, and try and catch up with family, friends, do things with my husband at the time. So that corporate lifestyle was literally starting to chew me up and spit me out. So maybe falling pregnant at the time I did actually gave me a bit of a nudge to go a different direction and rethink everything after having the kids.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, having kids was not part of the plan just because obviously you were looking at that career and thinking, wow, this is who we're going to be. But I've heard somewhere they say sometimes things happen for us, not to us. So having those kids would have maybe taken you towards maybe something that could have led to your burnout. Were you actually enjoying this, or was this, going with emotions, especially in the banking side of things?
I think the corporate life, I had reached the point of I had just had enough. I think working for somebody else too, I felt quite unappreciated at times because you do put in the extra effort because you care about what you do and you enjoy what you do and you want to do a good job. Plus, with my colleagues in work, I had great friendships, great relationships, and I wanted to always support them. I think the reality is the burnout was coming, and I do think things happen for a reason, and we're just very fortunate that what happened happened. Having been told I could potentially never have children as a teen. So that was a huge shift for both of us, financially, emotionally, everything, thinking this wasn't ever in our future plan because we always thought it would just be us and build our life together. And then next things happened and happened again and again. And luckily they're all healthy and everything worked out okay with the kids. So it was a blessing in some ways.
Absolutely. Well, I can only imagine, like you said, there was 2 weeks away, and that one week in there, I can only, see why that would have been possible for the kids to have then played center stage at that particular time. But you mentioned having to lose an income for somebody whose maybe identity was revolving around maybe that career and also having to do something on your own. Where did that place you as a person?
I felt lost. I think I really felt lost, even though my husband was my number one supporter as a mom and what I did at home. I just felt lost because it wasn't just the income. It was, I had my own money if I wanted to do something for myself besides our money together. So I didn't feel like I was kind of tapping into the joint bank account or having to ask or things like that. I had the money to go get my hair done if I needed to or things like that, that it gave me my own kind of confidence in myself, my own identity in that purpose because I had my own money as well as our money and had that, I suppose, ability to be able to just say, oh, if I want to catch up with a friend for a coffee, I can. I don't have to say, hey, babe, is it in the budget this week? Do you know, things like that? Because down to one income with a kid and a mortgage, it can hurt.
I can only imagine you're in Western Australia, right? If you're in Melbourne, then obviously you're gonna have to deal with that. Obviously, with the pricing of homes and things of that nature. But that's beside the point. So that being the case, you managed to do it. Two kids in, the third child, you then decided maybe I could start doing my own thing in mortgage broking. Was that the same? Now that you had kids and you now have to work or do some sort of, income related activities.
I don't think it's the same because I worked for myself. So when you start mortgage broking, you generally work for yourself or you're mentored by somebody when you enter the industry. So I started from brass tacks, bare bottom. I didn't even have recognition of anything I'd ever done prior. I just said, no, put me in at the deep end and let's start from the beginning. So when I could work around the kids and structure appointments after dinner when my husband was home on those weeks, because his roster always changed then. It would go to 2 on, 2 off, week on, week off. So I had that flexibility as well as the girls that used to work in the girls' daycare. I used to have them in for a day a week just for the socialization prior to school. So when I started broking, it was a couple of days a week. This won't be too bad. It's nice and handy. I can work around the kids. I still get to drop them to daycare or school or, after school activities. I still had all that flexibility as well as flexibility for me, which was huge. So I had less pressure, but I knew income was starting to be generated and come in, which also alleviated the financial pressure in the background as well.
Mm, I can only imagine. I mean, obviously, plus, even though you were in the finance field before, this is completely different, right? Mortgage broking, and here you're starting, like you said, from scratch, and it's a whole new world. Didn't fear start kicking in that what if this is not going to work? Or, because starting a new venture is not always easy.
Fear of failure is a massive obstacle for people, and I most definitely had it. And even though numbers has always kind of been something I've grown up with or something I've always known that it was comfortable to me, this was a whole new venture, something 100% totally different. It's sales. You're sitting with people and you're looking to find the best thing that they can possibly have that's going to best suit them in their best interest. But it's a sales job in theory. It's not like corporate banking where you're representing clients and charts and graphs of projections and things like that. It's very, very different because you're also dealing with people's emotions for what's their biggest purchase in life. So to have the two, they're total opposites. There's no kind of in between of anything even lining up. And the reality is when you sit with somebody in that instance, you get to know them as a person, you get to build a relationship. In corporate banking, you're a client, you're on paper, there's not that much interaction with you as such.
I can only imagine. So that obviously would have had to bring you out of your shell. I mean, you had real world experience. I mean, raising two kids or three kids, there's a lot of communication that needs to happen there, and you can always transfer that to having to deal with people because the nurturing aspect makes you feel very, you become, how do you say this? You become empathetic to the people that you're going to be dealing with. Do you think that sort of skill of now becoming a mother turned you and made it easy for you to cut through having to speak to people about subjects they hardly don't want to talk about?
I think so, because I think being a mom, I kind of wanted to mother all my first home buyers and hold their hand and be part of their journey. Now my first home buyers have had kids potentially. So I should have kept an album of all the broker babies because there's now hundreds upon hundreds of them. And every time there's a new addition to a family, I'm part of that process for people. I wouldn't even call it a process. It's part of that journey for them because I've become an integral part of their life where they've bought their first home together. We've strategized how to nut it out as fast as we can, budget for kids in the future, make sure that they're lined up, that if they go down to one income, what it's going to look like, things like that. So the baby pictures I get, the weddings, being part of people's journey of life, I find a privilege. It's a privilege doing what I do anyway. But to have that added extra just makes it so beautiful. And that's what makes it so personal for what I do. And that's why I think I enjoy it so much. Because in the beginning, I would sit down, have a cup of coffee, hold their baby if they had one, feed it while I'm talking to them, get to know them on an intimate level. which was always beautiful. And I think that's probably a testament to the business that I've now built, because about 92% of my business is word of mouth from existing clients. And I've now reached third generation clients as well, which is kind of making me feel a bit old, but it's also beautiful that people still entrust me with their kids and then their kids' kids. So it's just a massive journey that I never thought I would have ended up where I ended up, because it was just supposed to be a couple of days a week, something part-time, work around the kids. And then I've built this phenomenal business that I'm very, very lucky to have. And for my daughters, who are now late teens and early 20s, because it's been that long, they just look at me as this superpower of a woman, their mom, who tackled all those things, sleepless nights, kids' sports games, having to get them to and from school, appointments. But I always made sure I was home for dinner. I'd book appointments after dinner if I had to. Things like that I was always very firm on. And they just look at it now and they just go, Mom. And even if I meet clients when I'm out with them, and they go, oh, hi, Aly, how are you? Because most of my clients call me Aly. They don't call me Alyson. It's very formal because it's more of a friendship. They look at me and they go, hi, Aly, how are you? And I go, oh, hey, how are you? And my kids are like, even when they were younger, they're like, Mom, how do you know that person? I go, oh, just work. It's okay. Because obviously I'm not going to tell them. And they'd be like, oh, my God, you know so many people. And it's like, no, it's just my job. And I love doing that, but they'll update me on where they're at, what's happening in their lives, and it's really, really lovely, really lovely.
Absolutely, and it's quite refreshing to hear this, because some mortgage brokers, and I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect, I usually just call them the suits. It's all transactional. They never want to know what your last name is before you've given them access to your bank. And I'm like, how are we going to connect, in that sort of scenario? And yet you are the one that is front row at the housewarming parties, at the birthdays and things of that nature. I'm actually going to apply for a job, to be a seat filler for you. Have you ever seen those people at the Grammy Awards? It's just people that sit on seats if the celebrity didn't show up, just to make the room look full. So if ever there's an opening, I'm more than happy to. I love cake, so parties will be a good thing for me. Yeah, but you see, like I did mention, a lot of mortgage brokers, they don't go as far as wanting to know, because to them it's just a transaction, and obviously trail income, or I don't know what it is that they get from the banks. But to the person who's buying that home, that's their livelihood, that's their memories, that's their family and things of that nature. How then have you managed to maintain that, while everybody else is just going for the transaction and not caring about the third generation or fourth generation?
I think the majority of us do care, but I think post-COVID, digitalization has taken a lot of that personal touch out. Plus, people are a lot busier now. They don't want you to be talking to them for ages on the phone. They want an SMS or an email update because they're busy, because life's busy. So I think the whole industry as a whole has had a lot of digitalization, which does take a lot of that extra personal side out. I'm still open to meet my clients whenever they want to meet within schedules, whether it's after work, appointments on Saturdays. If I can work around my family still and do that for other people to suit them, I'm more than happy to do that, as most of us are. I just find that extra bit in the beginning just made me thrive and enjoy working in the field I was working in so much more. And I didn't realize how much of a purpose it would give me doing what I was doing. But until I saw the impact of people going, our house is settled, look at our home, this is our home. They'd send me videos and pictures, and we bought a new couch, and just things that you think are little things, but to people buying a new home as a first home buyer, it's such an exciting experience, or a first investment, or upsizing or downsizing, whatever it is. It's a massive emotional journey for them. And I've cried with clients because I've been so happy for them, because they potentially were knocked back or couldn't fit policy with one bank or maybe another bank, and then have come to me as a broker going, hey, you've access to X amount of banks, can you help me? And then when they get the finance, it's like, we found a solution, this is amazing. And I've had men in tears, women in tears, people in their early 20s, early 30s in tears, and some have even cried with them. So it's just, I think it's just how you relate to people as a whole. And I'm just very fortunate that when I do meet them, I'll just bring them in straight away. And I find that the clients that I don't connect like that with, which is very few, they never stay long term. They might stay 5 years. I've got clients on my book since the day I started 16 odd years ago, nearly 17, and they're not going anywhere because I always make sure they're looked after, check in at least once a year. I'll always be checking the rates in the background to see if I can sharpen anything. So I'm always proactive in the background, no matter what, looking after them. So they know that I'm doing that as well. And I think it's part of that nurturing, and just being a mom potentially is kind of giving me that extra edge, maybe. Not that that's a thing that stops people from doing that, but I think that just kind of sums it up in a whole, that I just care. I like what I do, I care, and I'm very fortunate that I've built the business I have because of it.
Absolutely. And I quite like that because, when you offer somebody access to your financial records, they're going through everything. You do a lot of Netflix. You do a lot of Uber Eats. And, it's like exposing someone, like it's like their report card. And so many people feel vulnerable. But if somebody really takes them in and now explains to them how, if there's a solution or if there's a way forward, even if it might not be a yes today, it doesn't mean it's a yes for life. And I think that's the reason why not so many people go past the first property in Australia. It's that scrutiny that then happens, that overly red tape. Obviously, I don't think it's the fault of the mortgage broker. I mean, the industry, like you say, has created it like that. But if then the mortgage broker takes it upon themselves to at least just go the extra mile to offer that, smooth cushion or that soft landing for people that have been maybe rejected elsewhere and things like that. But also, it's not just the mortgage broker to blame here. It's the financial literacy of the people that we are willing to help and serve. And, people would rather talk about sex than talk about money, especially when it comes to things that would help them in life. What sort of gaps do you identify when working with people, and how do you sort of address them with the clients that you end up working with?
There is a massive gap because there's nothing taught in schools, and unless it's taught at home, we're seeing a huge gap in the next generations coming through. For me, growing up, my mum had a budget. We stuck to the budget. She always had room to throw in an extra treat here and there, whatever it was, but she knew what she was cooking for the week. Whereas a lot of families now, when I even look at their bank statements, like you're saying, they say, oh, I can't save a deposit. So I'll work with them to get them where they need to be. And it might take 3 months, it might take 6, it might take 12, depending on how committed they are. Because a lot of people say, oh, I can't do it. It's like, yes, you can, but do you really need the Uber Eats every Saturday and Sunday morning? And you need to be drinking $22 cocktails all night on a Friday night and have 10 or 15 of them? No, you necessarily don't. So things like that, to teach and educate people, is probably a lot more of what brokers are doing now, and people in the industry, purely because there's just nothing taught in schools anymore about it. So when you get someone who comes in who's earning really good money, they've got the ability to save substantially, and they're not saving a cent, but yet they've got the brand new car and they've got the brand new jet ski and they've got a 90-inch TV, and it's like, well, hang on, do you really want a home here, or do you want all the toys? Where can we look at where you're overspending? Like, to get takeaway every week, the days of cooking a dinner at home or meal prepping on the weekend for your next 3 or 4 days at work, or lunches. People buy lunch at work these days. It's like $15. I go through bank statements. I'm not saying don't have your coffee every day, because I have my coffee every day, but I can tell when you have a coffee and you add a muffin to it, or I can tell when you have a coffee and you add a toasted sandwich to it. It's like, if you made your breakfast at home, you could have saved that, and it all adds up. So it's little things that are simple things that make a massive difference. But unless the education piece is there, people don't realize it, because everything's so easily accessible these days, like Uber Eats and deliveries and all of those things. I think your meal plans, things like that you can access online. There's even meal plans that will deliver to your house. It would help teach you to cook, to potentially even try and save. But people don't want to do that. They're time poor, or they make the excuse that they're time poor. The reality is, if you want to be in your own home, you're going to have to make sacrifices. If you want to pay it off in record time and not sit there for the next 30 years married to your mortgage, you have to make sacrifices. But I think the education piece doesn't teach kids these days to make sacrifices. The education piece just isn't there unless it comes from parents at home or family at home. Not a lot of people are going to Google, how's the best way to save money for a deposit for a house. It's not one of the top search things.
Absolutely. And not only does time is usually not on people's sides, and people don't realize, because yes, you might get started in work and you're doing all those buying of lunches. That's another year. Right now we're recording this at the beginning of the year. Before you know it, the year is finished and it all just adds up. Whereas the compounding of having owned a piece of property will be paying you in the background, rather than you paying the compounding interest of, all the doodads that people would have maybe made a purchase. But fish don't see the water that they swim in, Alyson, and neither can we see the air that we breathe. If I see my neighbor, driving the latest Range Rover, I'm in the dealership by tomorrow to find out if I can get one with 5 specs better than it. Just so that when we're driving into our neighbor, in our driveways, they can see that, we're not left far behind, and we can't park that Range Rover in our garage because our garage is full of stuff that we probably haven't touched or used or opened, in a very long while. Do you have maybe a case study? Obviously, I know you can't really go into people's names and details or identifying information, but maybe you can just walk us through how you would have maybe helped a client to, become a success story after you've worked with them, just so that people can actually understand the impact that you've given others.
There's quite a few that can come to mind. I'll give you one example where I had two very similar couples, similar age bracket, 20 to 30, similar incomes coming in the house, no debts. After paying zip pay, don't like them. They had small little limits on those. And both clients came in, it was February last year, between January and February last year. And they both said, we want to buy a house. What do I need to do? We're first home buyers. What are the grants? What are the schemes? We went through all the information available to them. And I basically turned around and said, right, this is what you need to have saved. This is what you need to have for your stamp duty. How soon do you think you can get this done? And when we looked through all the bank statements, everything, we analysed everything, came to where they could potentially save on a weekly basis from all those Uber Eats and bits and pieces, not discrediting Uber Eats by any means, but just all those extras that aren't necessities. They're just wants. I want it, so I'm going to get it. Do you really need that extra handbag? No, you don't. You've got like 5 in the cupboard. So things like that. So we went through everything from the previous 6 months history for both couples and worked out a plan of savings. One couple came back to me 4 months later and had the required deposit of 25 grand that they needed to top up. The other couple came back with 7. And the mindset for both couples was 100% polar opposites. Yes, they both wanted to be in their own home, but they didn't need to save. The attitude was so different and the mindset was so different in both couples. The couple who saved the money were like, we want to be out of renting. We want to have our own piece of dirt. We want to have our own home. We want to be able to pay it off faster. And we want to prove it to ourselves that we can do it. And it was just simple things like, don't have the coffee, make it at home. Make a breakfast at home. Don't buy it out. Yes, go out with friends, but budget for it and leave that money for yourself. So it was what would be brass tack, what you need to live on every week and still have a comfortable time, still be able to catch up with friends, go out for lunch, dinner, whatever it is. And then what's left over, save as much of that as possible and have a little unforeseen account because the unforeseen things happen. The other couple couldn't do that. No, I had to go out with my friends. I had this on, I had that on. And you get a lot of excuses. And the reality is, if you get a mortgage and you stop paying it, the bank's not going to listen to your excuse that a birthday popped up or I wanted to buy this new handbag, new pair of shoes, whatever it was, or I needed to upgrade my car when your car was perfectly fine. So society plays a massive impact on the attitude and the mindset, I find, of people. But at the same time, these two couples, polar opposite results. One's in a home, one we're still working with. And we potentially will still stay working with for quite some time because they're not ready. And I don't think they see the necessity of sacrifice to some extent of things they don't actually really need to get the home that they want. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Alyson, I don't know. You don't know where I work, and you don't know the people I hang around with. I just bought this pair of shoes. They're like $500. 4 easy payments, of that kind. And, you don't know the girls that I hang out with, they all have these kind of bag that you have to buy 4 or 5 things, in the lead up to the purchase of one bag. So how am I supposed to escape that?
This easy payment system drives me crazy because at the end of the day, you're borrowing money to do something. If you really wanted it, commit to actually saving the money. Get in the habit of putting the money aside and don't have the debt. Don't have the liability because it's so easy just to go paying for whatever it is. It's like when we were younger, that didn't exist. Well, mobile phones didn't really exist either, and technology. But I'm feeling old. But at the same time, if you didn't have the money, you just didn't get it until you saved for it, or you allowed for it in your budget, or you put aside the money. That habit is not there because the education piece is not there behind it to teach people it's not ready money just because you want that right now. It's not like you're on a famous TV show where Veruca wanted the golden egg. It's not like that. Just because you want it doesn't mean you're going to get it. Save, give yourself a bit of meaning and a bit of a sense of achievement that you've actually done that. I think the achievement part for people when they do get the deposit that they need and have what they need to be able to buy their home and then go out shopping, they know they've done it. So they've accomplished something before they've ever bought their house because they've committed to it. It's the commitment is not always there, unfortunately, because it's just so easy to go, oh, just whack it on an afterpay or on a pay in full or something like that and streamline it. Don't streamline it because then you're not living within your means. You're living week to week potentially.
Absolutely. I mean, you know so much about this. You even went on and wrote a book, yeah, or you co-authored in a book. Let us know a little bit about, the core message that you hope the readers of this Legacy Business Builders can get if they get their hands on it.
So the co-author piece came in through a colleague of mine who thought it would be good to get involved in telling my story. So my story, I don't look at myself as being anybody special. I'm just me. I'm Aly. I am a mom. I'm a wife, FIFO wife. Yes, I run my own business. I've been very successful in business. I've been very lucky. Yeah, there've been ups and downs, ins and outs, tears, sleepless nights. Everybody has them. It doesn't make it anything different to anybody else. It just means that you're normal if you're experiencing those things. The chapter in the book for me was about my journey of how I ended up going into broking. Like I said earlier, it was something to work around the kids. And then how it evolved from there, as in how I've built the business. I mentored new brokers to the industry. I expanded my offices. I closed one. I saw that as a failure, but it actually wasn't. It was one of the best financial decisions we made at the time in the WA market. It talks about the sleepless nights. It talks about how I've worked with clients and restructured their finances that have come to me and saved them over $1,000 or $1,500 a month in repayments, that then they can use that money that they've already been used to paying to knock down the mortgage faster and get ahead faster. It talks about the struggles of being a mum and a FIFO mum. And when your husband or partner is away, if you're in the same industry as well, you are the security guard when you're at home by yourself or when the kids are asleep. You are the one awake with any bit of noise at night. So getting back into the routine of sleep is not an easy thing. It also talks about the journey of getting into business and backing yourself, taking that chance and that leap. And look, you will have setbacks, but if it's really what makes you happy and you know that you're good at it and you will be successful at it, success comes. The numbers take care of themselves. I was very fortunate to receive multiple awards and accolades, but I don't go on about them because they're not who define me. What defines me is I've built a beautiful business, and the chapter talks all about that. And it is raw, and yes, it is a bit vulnerable at times. And I used to always see vulnerability as being a weakness, but now I look at it as a strength because the journey in that made me realize that I am enough for me and I don't need to conform to anybody else. That is actually the chapter title for me. It is I Am Enough, funnily enough, purely because it talks about how your own self-doubts, your own self-sabotage, your own limited beliefs in who you are and what you can achieve are what you fight with in your head every night and what stops you potentially from taking the chance on doing something new and different. So for me, it talks about taking those chances and yes, the setbacks and the ups and downs, but it's worked into a beautiful legacy that I can now sit back and go, wow, I've done that. And I've met so many amazing people and helped thousands upon thousands of clients achieve their dreams of home ownership or investments or, success for them, which is a huge privilege, absolute huge privilege.
Man, you have no idea. You did say you're nothing special, but I just get mesmerized just listening to your Irish accent and your high energy, and most of that just really make you memorable. So just you being there for people and listening to them, or them just listening to how you say your words. Do you still speak a bit of Irish? Degwich?
Tough one to rub. I do a little bit, but not a lot. The most I can remember from school is how can I go to the toilet? Where's the toilet? That's about it.
But obviously you've used these traits of your high energy and things like that to really connect with people. How has this influenced the interactions and the success that you now have in business?
I think for me, people look at me and they kind of look and go, how do you fit it all in? Like your mom, you're running around, netball coach, netball manager, parent coordinator at school, and then you ran a business and you're always on the go. And we've elderly in-laws that we help look after as well here. So there's a multitude of hats that most people wear. And I think for me, my baseline of energy and my normal day-to-day life and how much I fit in is way, way, way on BLE for some people because their baseline is a lot lower. And I've learned that through writing the chapter in the book, actually, because I realized I function on high energy and I can't cope when I'm quiet. If I'm quiet, I find a wall at home to paint, or I will go back to clients and re-review them again to make sure they're still on the best rate or the best deal they can have. So I'm always trying to do something and keep myself active because I think my brain would fry if I just didn't. The high energy piece for me, I'm always excited. I'm always loving coming to work. There isn't a day that I come in and I go, I really don't want to be here. I love doing what I do. And I think that takes that energy up every day for me, and getting the exciting phone call with my clients, so letting them know their finances approved and yay, you've got a mortgage, but hey, you've got your house. Like, it just keeps me pumped all the time, as long as being available to as well as being available to my kids. Well, they're now a bit older, and milestones for them. So it's that flexibility of everything that just combines. And with my husband flying in and out, the day he comes home, yeah, he's knackered, but I'm excited that he's home and I pick him up now. I drop him to the airport. Before, when the kids were younger, he'd have to cab. I pick him up, I drop him, I say goodbye. Sometimes I still cry when I say goodbye to him when he leaves. But then I go home and I go, today's another day. He's now still doing it, but it's a lot less work because he was very ill there for a little while, which luckily my business was able to support us in that instance. So it's gone full swing. But yeah, the energy, it comes from just loving what I do and enjoying what I do and the people I get to work with and tell good news to most of the time. So
Absolutely. And you see, the thing is, your role is you facilitate people's livelihood, really. I mean, if you've got a roof on above you, that's part of human needs, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Even though society has different views to home ownership, some people look at it as, like you said, mortgage, but some people look at it as expansion, and now we've got our own place to call home. So when people do a transaction or do certain things, they also are met with those mixed emotions with the people around them. Some people are like, so you guys now, we're no longer playing with you because now you're not going to buy coffees like we do because you got to pay your mortgage. And some are excited with them. So if the person who's facilitated that is also excited for them, I think that's the best place to be. And so thank you so much for being that to some people that don't have, cheerleaders along their journey to home ownership or investment properties. Now, from what I'm seeing, you've worn so many hats, Alyson. You know, everything we can think of. You've mentioned that you are doing now. You've actually just gotten cheerleader for your clients. What has been the most rewarding role you've had to play in your life, and why?
being a mom. After
Mm.
being told I was never capable of having children, long time ago, because endometriosis wasn't much discussed back then and there wasn't much research into it. I think being a mom has been my most amazing achievement. And watching my daughters grow into just strong, independent women is phenomenal. Nothing beats that.
Mm.
They make
Absolutely.
me teary. You said you wouldn't make me cry.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And obviously, the people that have been on the journey with us, they're keen to maybe get to know a little bit more about how you work and how you can be their cheerleader, or at least point them in the right sort of direction. What would be the best place for them to get started on their journey with you, Alyson?
Just get in touch. You'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me on Instagram. You can look me up. You'll find me under Alyson Irwin at Low Market. And my Instagram is Aly J Irwin, where you'll find me there, because I just find that's a little bit more personal. It's not just so much work stuff. Get in touch, have a chat, and let's see what we can do from there. Part of the
Absolutely.
journey is getting to know you as a person, what you want to achieve, and then finding the best solution for you. So that's all part of that initial piece of having the chat initially. And I like to talk, I'm Irish, so get in touch and let's see what we can do. That's pretty much it. Because until I know your story, or where you're at, or where you work, or what your circumstances are, I can't define a solution for you until I know what you want to achieve. So once I find out and tap into what you want to achieve and where you want to go and what your requirements are going forward, that's how we tailor suit then for your best interest.
Absolutely. Now, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. And obviously, you've really taken us on a journey. You know, you've shown us who you were, and where you are headed, and obviously the accomplishments along the way. And congratulations. I mean, obviously, the person that we spoke to today is someone that is nurturing and obviously wants other people to succeed. But we all know that, you know, the mortgage industry is always ever evolving and things are always changing, and, you know, instruments or tools are being shifted and changed just to suit the current economic sort of look up and set up. How do you stay ahead of the industry trends and maybe continue to keep providing the best service to your clients, which is relevant to the time they're at that particular moment?
I think for us, is a lot to do with it is the IT piece and the tracking. We're very fortunate. I've worked with Low Market almost 17 years, and that's a very much a family-run business. It's one of the largest in Australia, and we are keeping ahead of IT processes. We're always reviewing process, how we can best serve the clients, make sure they're well looked after. Because of that and the family environment that we work in our franchises, I think that's what keeps me staying put where I am, because I do love where I am and it is a great business. But the other part is they've invested so much money and time to make sure that our processes are giving the best solutions to clients, access to more and more lenders, different policies from different banks were updated regularly to always stay abreast of what's happening in the market and climate change. Banks' assessment rates change. You can walk in on a Monday and things can change in the last week, that you might not fit a client there yesterday, but you could today. So because of their support and the funding they've put into their IT and infrastructure, it helps us deliver the best service we can.
Absolutely. I can't thank you enough, I mean, for sharing your profound journey with us today. Obviously, your experiences offer invaluable insights. First of all, to the resilience that you showed, the self belief of you taking it head on to start your own business, and in the pursuit of something that is of purpose, because I believe in life we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. So we, in order for us to live the best life possible, we need to learn how to do that. And once we know how to do that, we send the elevator down and help others be, do, and have a happier existence. And that is what you have done. So thank you so much for the journey that you took us on, and the journey that you took in order for you to have a good story to tell on the Online Prosperity Show.
Thank you very much for having me. It was an absolute joy. Loved it.
Absolutely. Now, for our listeners, if Aly's story resonated with you, obviously consider reaching out to her for guidance on your own financial journey, and you can connect with her through her website. I will put the links on the show notes here, or you could follow her on social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Now, if you also found value in today's episode, I actually encourage you to rewatch this, because obviously Aly is a fast talker. You might have missed out on a few things that she might have said, but there's a lot of nuggets of gold that you might pick up if you actually rewatch this. But if you managed to follow along as we were going, I encourage you to share this with somebody who might benefit from Aly's insights, because there's a lot, like she says, there's a big gap in the financial literacy that people could learn in order for them to have a happier existence. It's not pretty much who you know, but it's usually what it is that you know that could help you be to and have a happier existence. And while you're at it, why don't you just subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more inspiring content? And I want you to remember one thing: every journey starts with just a single step, and today might just be the day you take yours. Bye for now.